She lived alone, no guests, no visitors, just silence. But then food started disappearing. Doors were open, she swore she had closed, so she installed a hidden camera. And what it recorded will make you question who might be living with you, without you even knowing. Emma had grown to love the silence. After a bitter divorce and years of constant noise, arguments, phones ringing, doors slamming, she finally had what she always told herself she needed: solitude. In early spring, she moved halfway across the world to Kyoto, Japan, taking advantage of a freelance translation contract that allowed her to live cheaply and work from anywhere. No friends, no calls, no distractions, just peace. Her apartment was small, tucked away on the third floor of a modest, aging building nestled at the edge of the city. 2 rooms, 1 bath, an open kitchen. She didn't need more. She could hear the wind from her balcony, the soft hum of cicadas at night, and sometimes the quiet shifting of her elderly neighbor's cane from the floor below. The kind of quiet that most people found unnerving. Emma found it perfect. Her days were predictably simple. She woke at 8 a.m., brewed her coffee, checked her inbox, and translated contracts or subtitles for Japanese media companies. She cooked modest meals, read before bed, and fell asleep to true crime podcasts, ironic considering what would happen. It started small. So small she convinced herself she was just tired. One morning while pouring cereal, she noticed the milk carton was nearly empty. That wasn't unusual, except she had only opened it the day before and remembered using it once. She paused, frowned, and shook the thought off. Memory lapse. A day later, her favorite cookies, individually wrapped and kept high in a cabinet, were missing 2 packets. Maybe she had eaten them and forgotten. It was easy to lose track. Then the window. It was a rainy Tuesday. She had gone out to buy groceries and stopped by a small cafe to read a novel. When she returned around dusk, the apartment smelled a bit musty, and the small kitchen window was ajar, wide enough to make her freeze mid-step. She was certain she had closed it. Hadn't she? Still, nothing looked disturbed, nothing broken, no signs of theft. Her laptop was exactly where she'd left it. The door was still locked. She told herself it was her fault. Maybe the latch hadn't caught. Maybe the wind had blown it open. But her unease settled in her bones. Later that night, she double-checked every lock. She even pressed the windows shut with extra force. She laughed at herself, trying to shake off the discomfort. Paranoia is what loneliness does, she reasoned. Nothing more. Then she started hearing sounds. They weren't loud, no footsteps or crashing furniture. More like subtle shuffling. A creak from the kitchen floorboards at 2 a.m., the faintest clink of metal, as if a spoon grazed the sink. Once she swore she heard breathing that wasn't hers. Each time she froze in her bed, heart pounding, mind racing to rationalize. Rats? An old building shifting? Her imagination? But every sound coincided with the same strange detail. She kept a mental list. She bought a full tray of eggs. Used 4. The next day, there were only 5 left. A miscount? Maybe. Then 2 cans of tuna disappeared. She lived alone. She never gave out her spare key. She hadn't invited anyone over. That's when the real fear began to settle. Not panic, dread. She stopped brushing off the signs. She stayed home more. She started locking her bedroom door while she slept. She told herself it was just to feel safer, but that didn't help. Then came the final straw. At 4:13 a.m. on a Saturday, Emma woke suddenly. She didn't know why. There was no sound, no movement, just this feeling. She lay still in the dark, staring at the ceiling, heart racing. Then she heard it. A soft cough, not from outside, from inside the apartment. It was close. Not in the bedroom, but maybe in the kitchen or living room. Her breath caught. She didn't move. She didn't even blink. She waited. Nothing followed, just silence, thicker than ever. The next morning, after hours of terrified sleeplessness, she made a decision. She bought a hidden camera online. a small motion-activated device disguised as a USB charger. She plugged it into the outlet across from the kitchen. It would record only when there was movement. She didn't tell anyone. She didn't even re-watch true crime podcasts that day. She just waited. That night she went to bed early, double-locked her door, left the rest of the apartment dark. She didn't sleep. The camera arrived 2 days later. Emma opened the package with trembling hands, even though it looked like nothing more than a USB charger, sleek, black, unassuming. The kind of device you'd walk past 1,000 times without a second glance. That was the point. She tested it twice, plugged it into her laptop, checked the micro SD card, verified that it started recording only when motion was detected. Then, without another word, she slid it into the outlet beneath her kitchen counter. A perfect view of the fridge, the hallway, and the entrance to the bathroom. If someone was in there, living with her, hiding, this would catch it. But when she pressed record, she realized something terrifying. This wasn't just about catching someone. This was about confirming that she wasn't insane. The first night? Nothing. She checked the footage in the morning. Just static darkness with a faint glow from the microwave clock. No movement, no sound. Emma almost felt disappointed, which confused her. Relief should have been the obvious emotion. Instead, it felt inconclusive. The second night, she stayed out of the kitchen entirely. She shut her bedroom door, turned off all lights, and forced herself to sleep with earplugs in, phone nearby, and a flashlight tucked under her pillow. She woke at 6:12 a.m., heart already pounding. She walked directly to the camera, removed the card, and slotted it into her laptop. Her hand hovered over the play button. Then she hit it. At first, black. Then, a slight movement. At 2:44 a.m., the microwave clock's glow lit up a small part of the frame. Then something shifted at the edge, barely perceptible. A cabinet door slowly opened. Emma leaned closer. From inside the cabinet, yes, inside, a figure began to move. A hand first. Thin, pale, almost sickly. Then hair. Messy, long, tangled. Then, a face emerged, half-shadowed, eyes wide open, and scanning. The figure crawled out slowly, silently, like a spider unfolding itself from a crevice. It was a woman. Emma froze. Her breath caught in her throat. She couldn't move. This stranger, this uninvited, hidden woman, crawled out from the base cabinet beneath the sink, stood upright, stretched like a cat in the dark, and walked casually toward the fridge. Emma watched, paralyzed, as the woman opened the refrigerator door like she owned the place. She took out Emma's milk, drank from the carton, wiped her mouth with her sleeve. She stood in the kitchen for a few minutes, eating a banana, shuffling her feet, breathing loudly. Then, without a sound, she moved into the hallway and disappeared out of frame. Emma fast-forwarded. At 3:21 a.m., the figure returned, walking slowly, staring off into nothing. She paused at the corner, looked toward the camera, directly into the lens, though she didn't know it was there. Emma's stomach turned. There was something in that stare. Not fear, not malice, just emptiness. Like looking through a window into a room with no furniture, no soul. Then the woman crawled back into the cabinet. That was it. Emma slammed the laptop shut. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She couldn't. Every sound in her apartment suddenly had a source. Every vanished egg, every cracked door, every creak in the floor, it all made horrible, perfect sense now. Someone was living in her kitchen cabinet, coming out at night, watching her, breathing the same air. For how long? Weeks? Months? She locked herself in the bathroom and vomited. Then, she called the police. They arrived within 15 minutes, 2 officers, calm but confused. Emma, pale and shaking, played the footage for them. Their expressions shifted instantly. The older officer nodded once and unclipped his baton. They searched the apartment thoroughly, opening every cabinet, every drawer. And then, they opened the one under the sink. It took them a few seconds. The space was so tight, so small, Emma couldn't believe anyone could fit inside. But she had. She was still there, curled up in the darkness, asleep, or pretending to be. The same woman from the footage. Dirty, thin, dressed in layers of mismatched clothes. She looked like a character pulled out of a nightmare. Not aggressive, not shocked, just vacant. The officers pulled her out. She didn't fight. She barely blinked. They asked her name. She didn't answer. They asked how she got in. No response. One of them muttered something about mental illness and homeless squatters. But that didn't matter to Emma. Nothing mattered except the horrific realization that this... By the way, if you're into strange and unbelievable true stories like this one, make sure to subscribe. We drop a new story every single day, and trust me, they only get wilder from here. Now, back to it. Emma didn't sleep for the next 2 nights. The apartment was empty now. Police had escorted the intruder out, the cabinet door under the sink now sealed shut with duct tape, even though she knew it wasn't necessary. But the silence that once comforted her now clawed at her. It felt heavier, unnatural. Every shadow in the hallway seemed to move. Every sound had weight. She couldn't bring herself to eat. Every item in the fridge reminded her of that mouth, the woman's mouth, drinking straight from the milk carton. Stealing bites from food meant only for her. It was disgusting, violating. It wasn't just that her privacy had been shattered. It was the fact that this stranger had coexisted beside her, silently, unnoticed. But the worst part, no one seemed to take it seriously. When she visited the police station the next day to follow up, the response was underwhelming. The officer at the desk, the same one who'd seen the footage with her, was polite, but distant. He told her the woman was likely mentally ill, possibly homeless, and likely entered when a door or window was left unlocked weeks prior. There have been similar cases, he said with a tired shrug. Nothing violent, just desperate people looking for shelter. Emma felt her chest tighten. Desperate people looking for shelter? That was it? That was the explanation? That was all she would get after discovering a stranger living in her kitchen? She asked if the woman had said anything. He shook his head. She hasn't spoken a word. No ID, no prints on file. We don't know who she is. She'll be transferred to psychiatric custody soon. That was it. No follow-up. No formal report. No apology. No answers. Emma returned to her apartment, but it no longer felt like hers. She walked through the rooms as if she were visiting someone else's home. She opened her closet with hesitation. She pulled back her shower curtain with trembling fingers. She double-checked the locks every night, sometimes 3-4 times. Then the dreams started. She'd wake up gasping in the middle of the night, certain she heard breathing behind her. Sometimes she'd see the cabinet door in her dream, slowly creaking open, the woman crawling toward her bed, whispering nonsense under her breath. Emma started sleeping with the lights on. She told herself she was overreacting, that it was over, that the woman was gone. But something in her gut said otherwise. A week passed. Emma began trying to move on. She deep-cleaned the entire apartment. She threw out all her food. She replaced the locks. She tried journaling, writing out her thoughts to process the trauma. It didn't help much, but it made her feel like she was doing something. Then came the knock. It was 2:16 a.m. A single soft knock on the door. Emma sat upright in bed, her heart pounding in her throat. She waited. Maybe she imagined it. Then again, knock. This time, louder. She grabbed her phone, turned on the flashlight, and crept toward the door. She didn't look through the peephole. She was too afraid of what she might see. Silence. She waited. 5 minutes passed. 10. She finally built the courage to look. Nothing. Just the empty hallway, dimly lit by the red glow of the exit sign. She locked the door twice and backed away. The next morning, her security camera app showed no footage. Nothing had triggered the motion sensor. She thought about calling the police again, but what would she say? That she heard a knock. She didn't sleep the next night. Or the next. Then one afternoon, she received an envelope. No name, no return address, just slid under her door. Inside was a single Polaroid. A photo. Of her, sleeping, in her bed. The timestamp? A day before, the police found the woman. Emma dropped the photo and staggered back, shaking. She didn't remember this photo being taken. It wasn't from her phone. She had no camera that printed like this. Her hands trembled. She picked it up again. In the bottom corner of the frame, barely visible, was a shadow. The edge of a face, watching her. Not from the foot of her bed, from the closet. Emma stared at the Polaroid for what felt like hours. She didn't move, didn't breathe. The edges of the photo were slightly bent, the kind of wear that happens when someone keeps something close, touches it often. Whoever had taken this hadn't just snapped it and forgotten. They had kept it, looked at it, maybe more than once. And now, they had given it to her. It was more than just a picture. It was a message, a statement of power. I was here. I watched you. You never saw me. Emma placed the photo on the counter like it might burn her fingers. Her hands were clammy. Her skin was cold. She tried to think logically. Maybe this was old. Maybe someone else had taken it. Maybe... No. The timestamp is on the corner. The angle of the photo. It was taken from inside the room. And the faint face in the shadows. Watching. From inside the closet. She had no explanation for that. Emma grabbed her phone and called the police again. This time, they took longer to respond. When they arrived, they were polite but skeptical. They asked if she had staged the photo herself. They asked if she was sure she hadn't taken it and forgotten. They asked if she had shown it to anyone else. When she showed them the Polaroid, they examined it briefly, then shrugged. Creepy, one of them said. But no crime here. They left after 15 minutes. No report. No investigation. Just another nod, another warning to lock your doors and stay safe. Emma felt like she was slowly unraveling. The next 48 hours were suffocating. She couldn't eat, couldn't sit still, couldn't focus on work. Her emails went unanswered. She didn't return messages from her employer. She kept rechecking the photo, as if the image might change. She barely slept, only drifting into short, shallow bursts of unconsciousness before jerking awake again. And always, when she woke, her eyes would go first to the closet. Was it open just a crack? Had it moved? One night, too tired to care anymore, she left the light on and fell asleep, fully dressed, phone clutched to her chest. At 3:11 a.m., she woke to a sound. A whisper. At first, she thought she was dreaming. But her room was cold. Too cold. The kind of cold that sinks into your bones. She sat up slowly, eyes adjusting to the dim light. The closet door was open. Only slightly, but enough. Enough to see that something dark was inside. She didn't scream. She couldn't. Her throat was closed, her limbs frozen. She stared unblinking, waiting for the shape to move. It didn't. But the whisper came again. Closer. She picked up her phone with shaking hands and dialed the police. Her voice barely worked. "There's someone in my room," she said. They said they were on their way. She stayed motionless, locked in a silent standoff with the darkness. The police found nothing again. No sign of forced entry. No footprints, no fingerprints. Nothing missing. But the closet door was open when they arrived. And the officer noticed something strange. The floorboards behind the closet were slightly uneven, almost lifted. They pulled the closet apart and found what Emma never knew existed. A crawl space. No bigger than a dog kennel. Completely dark, hidden behind a removable wooden panel. Inside, a small pile of clothing, several wrappers, an empty water bottle, and worst of all, a collection of more Polaroids. Some were of Emma sleeping. Others were taken from the hallway. One was from the bathroom, taken through a crack in the door. She had never seen these before. She had never noticed the camera. The crawl space was deep enough for someone to slide inside and stay hidden for hours, maybe longer. The officers guessed it connected to old service access points in the building's structure. This time they took it seriously. An investigation was opened. Emma was relocated temporarily by the landlord. The apartment was sealed off for inspection. Police went through the building's records, interviewed tenants, and searched for fingerprints again. Forensic teams tried to trace the Polaroid camera. No luck. No serial number. No seller records. Just an old analog model, probably bought secondhand. No one knew how long the crawl space had been used. No one could confirm when the photos were taken. And the woman? The one they had pulled from the kitchen cabinet? She had escaped custody. Disappeared. Vanished from the psychiatric facility within 72 hours of being transferred. No one could explain how. Cameras failed. Logs were blank. She simply wasn't there anymore. Emma never returned to that apartment. She left Japan within a week, flew back to the States, and moved in with her sister in Oregon. She never lived alone again. For months, she kept the Polaroids in a locked drawer, unsure if she should burn them or keep them as proof. Eventually, she threw them into a river. She deleted the footage. She changed her name online. But sometimes, late at night, when the house is quiet, she swears she hears a soft knock at the door. It's been 11 months since Emma left the apartment in Kyoto. 11 months since she saw the last Polaroid. Since she felt eyes on her that didn't blink. Since she found out she had never been truly alone. She never went back. Never contacted the landlord. Never responded to follow-up emails from the local police. She couldn't. Everything in her body told her that story needed to stay buried. Life in Oregon was better, safer. Her sister had a small house on the edge of town, surrounded by trees and silence that Emma once would have found comforting. Now, it was different. Silence didn't mean peace anymore. It meant potential. It meant the possibility that someone, or something, was listening. She found work again, slowly. Freelance jobs, translation, editing. It was enough to keep her busy, enough to feel human. Her therapist called it functional trauma management. She called it pretending. But even pretending had its limits. The first time it happened again, it was small. She found her bedroom window unlatched. Nothing else. No sign of entry, no damage, just slightly open. Just wide enough for a whisper of cold air. Her sister insisted it must have been the wind. Emma didn't argue, but she moved a chair in front of the window that night, just in case. Then the tapping started. Not every night, just sometimes. At the back door, on the glass, on her bedroom wall. Always between 2 and 3 a.m. Always just once. She never opened the door. She never looked. Then came the envelope. Plain, no return address, delivered by hand, no stamp, just like before. Inside, a single item. A photograph. Not a Polaroid this time. A glossy, high-resolution photo. Modern, clean. It showed her walking out of the grocery store, 2 bags in her hands, wearing a green coat she had just bought last week. Someone was following her, again. Emma didn't scream. She didn't cry. She didn't tell her sister. She just shut down. The picture was proof, not just that she was being watched again, but that whoever had invaded her world hadn't stopped, hadn't disappeared, had only followed from the shadows, changed methods, changed cities, but they were still watching. She went to the police, filed a report, showed the photo. The officer was polite, professional, skeptical. No fingerprints, no camera visible in the area, no usable faces, no car in the photo, no trail to follow. The case went nowhere. Emma started carrying a knife in her bag. Then, a taser. Then, eventually, she got a gun license. Weeks passed. She stopped sleeping. Every knock became a threat. Every creak a warning. Her sister grew worried. "You need to move on," she said. Emma couldn't explain that this wasn't trauma. This was still happening. Then, one night, she opened her laptop to find her desktop changed. A new folder. She never put it there. Inside, 20 images, all surveillance style. All of her. In the kitchen, at her desk, sleeping. The final image stopped her heart cold. It was taken from inside the house. Angle low, behind the couch. And in the corner, barely visible, a pair of eyes, watching from the hallway. She grabbed her gun, cleared every room. Nothing. She called the police. Again. They searched the house. Again. Nothing. She stayed in a hotel that night, and the night after. When she returned home on the third day, everything seemed untouched, except for one thing. On her pillow was a Polaroid. Back to the old method. It showed her hotel bed, empty. But the closet door was slightly open. That was the last straw. Emma moved again. Different state, different phone, no online presence. She deleted all her accounts, changed her name, took a job under the table. She didn't tell anyone where she went, not even her sister. She thought if she erased herself, she could finally be free. Now, 6 months later, she lives in a small trailer off a dirt road in rural Montana. Off-grid, no internet, no phone line. Just prepaid burner phones and a shotgun under her mattress. And still, every night, before she sleeps, she double-checks the windows. She opens the cabinets. She taps the wall behind the closet just once to make sure it's solid. And every morning, she wakes up wondering, will today be the day? Will today be the morning when she finds a new envelope at the door? A new photo? A new message? She hasn't seen one in 3 months. But that doesn't make her feel safe. It makes her more afraid. Because monsters don't always knock before they return. Sometimes, they never left. What would you do if this happened to you? Would you ever feel safe again knowing someone lived in your home without you noticing? Let us know in the comments. And if this story chilled you even half as much as it did us, subscribe to the channel for more real horror stories that stay with you long after the screen goes dark.